Roll call.
Mr. Michael LaGuard. Mr. Gregory Harding. Mr. Matthew Ford.
Here.
Mrs. Debbie Benoit. Mr. Don Crowdis.
Here.
Dr. Bud Kluche.
Here.
Mr. Roger Dale DeHart. Dr. Maybelle Trahan.
Here.
And Mr. Dane Voisin.
Here.
Madam President, you do have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Brunet. Item number 5 on the agenda, approval of the minutes of the school board meeting of June 4th, 2024, and the special school board meeting of June 25th, 2024. Recommendation that the board approve the minutes of the school board meeting of June 4th, 2024, and special school board meeting of June 25th, 2024, as recorded. So moved by Mr. Voisin, second by Mr. Ford. Any public comment? Mr. Voisin?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Ford? Any other board members? Any objections? None heard, so ordered. Item number 6, announcements. On the 9th of July, there will be a public hearing on the proposed budget for 24-25. I am inviting everyone and that is were interested in the school finances to be here so that your questions can be answered. On the 16th of July, we have our committee meetings beginning at 5 o'clock with Buildings, Food Service, and Transportation, followed by Education, Technology, and Policy, Finance, Insurance, and Section 16 Lands and Executive Committee. On the 6th of August, we will have our regular school board meeting. Item 7A, Finance and Insurance and Section 16 Lands Committee report. Mr. Ford.
Thank you, Madam President. Before I get started with the report, I just want to reiterate what Dr. Trahan said about the 7-9. That's our public hearing for the proposed budget that we will be reviewing this evening. We've invited the public every year, and I try to encourage people to come, and we have very little turnout usually, so I'm sending out an extra invitation. Please, to the public, come out for that board meeting, for that public hearing, so you can discuss the budget and we can go over key aspects thereof. The Finance, Insurance, and Section 16's Lands Committee met at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, June 11th, 2024, in the boardroom of the school board office with the following members present. Myself as chairman, Dr. Bud Cloutier as interim school board member, Mr. Don Crowdis as vice chairman, was absent. Also in attendance were Mr. Dane Voisin, Ms. Debbie Benoit, Mr. Roger Dale DeHart, Mr. Michael LaGuard, Mr. Gregory Harding, Superintendent Bubba Ogeron, and members of his staff. The first recommendation that we had from committee that evening is actually something we are going to table for this board meeting, so we're going to reconvene, but just to give you guys an idea, this is about the student insurance, and we are seeking an option of self-insuring, so that's going to be tabled for tonight, and we will hopefully bring that back in 2 weeks at committee, and then potentially if we have something for the August meeting. Item number 2. The committee recommends that the board approve and accept the proposal from Mercer Consumer for student nurse professional liability insurance with limits of $1 million with a $3 million aggregate per any one student with an annual premium of $785. Have a motion moved by Mr. Crowdis, seconded by Dr. Cloutier. Any public comment? Mr. Crowdis? Dr. Cloutier? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes. Item number 3, the committee recommends that the board adopt as presented the final 2023-2024 budgets for the designated funds, that the board allow the final budgets for the funds to be deemed a variable budget with estimated revenues set equal to actual revenues, provided that such revenues do not exceed those approved by the board and or state or federal regulatory authorities, and further, that the final budget for appropriations be set equal to amounts actually expended, provided that such expenditures do not exceed those approved by the board and/or state or federal regulatory authorities. Moved by Mr. Dehart, second by Dr. Cloutier. Any public comment on this? Mr. Dehart? Dr. Cloutier? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes. Item number 4, the committee recommends that the board receive and accept the proposed operating budgets for the General Operating Fund, Child Nutrition Fund, 1 cent sales tax fund, half-cent sales tax fund, 3/4 cent sales tax fund, and various special revenues for the 2024-2025 fiscal year, and establish a public hearing on the same for Tuesday, July 9th, 2024, at 5:30 p.m. in the boardroom of the Terrebonne Parish School Board Office, 201 Stadium Drive, Home, Louisiana, 70360. Moved by Dr. Cloutier,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Crowdis. Any public comment? Dr. Cloutier? Mr. Crowdis? Any other board members? I would like to say that this budget that was presented to us is fiscally responsible. It's an exceptional budget. And the one thing that I want to point out is that it highlights our greatest aspect of it, our greatest asset of our district, which is our employees. So I'm very proud to present this budget, and I'm hoping that we do have public at the public hearing, because I think it's something we should be touting about, and I'm excited to see it go through. So, do I have any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes. Item number 5, the committee recommends that the board approve and accept the assignment of the campsite lease of Section 16, Township 20, South, Range 19 East, Lot A, from Mr. Wayne Brogdon, current leasee, to Mr. David Kano for the remaining term of the current lease ending December 21st, 2032, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. Moved by Mr. Dehart. Second by Dr. Cloutier. Any public comment? Mr. Dehart? Dr. Cloutier? Any other board members? Mr. Crowdis?
So is it, are we just transferring the lease agreement? Is that just from one person to the next? Nothing else changes? There's no changes in liability or anything like that related to us at all?
No.
Same cost, same cost per year.
All right. Thank you.
Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes. There being no further business to come before the Finance, Insurance, and Section 16's Lands Committee, the meeting adjourned at 5:20 p.m., and I turn the meeting back over to you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Dear members of the board, the executive committee met immediately following the 5 p.m. Finance and Insurance and Section 16 Lands Committee meeting on Tuesday, June 11th, 2024, in the boardroom of the school board office with the following members present: Mr. Dane Voisin, Vice President; Mr. Michael Lagarde; myself, President, was not here that night. Also in attendance were Dr. Cloutier, Ms. Benoit, Mr. Ford, Mr. Roger Dale Dehart, Mr. Crowdis, Mr. Harding, superintendent, and members of his staff. The executive committee was called to order by Mr. Voisin. An executive committee examined and authorized payment of invoices for the current month, including supplemental payroll and travel expenses. Do I have a motion to accept this report? Motion by Mr. Voisin. Second by Dr. Cloutier. Any public comment? Mr. Voisin. Dr. Cloutier. Any other board members? Any objections? None heard, so ordered. Being there was no further business to come before the executive committee, the meeting was adjourned at 5:21 p.m. Item 7C, Buildings, Food Service, and Transportation Committee report. Mr. Voisin.
Thank you, Madam President. The Building, Food Service, and Transportation Committee met immediately following the 5 p.m. Finance, Insurance, and Section 16's Lands Committee and Executive Committee on Tuesday, June 11, 2024, in the boardroom of the School Board Office with the following members present: myself, Chair, Mr. Lagarde, Vice Chair. Dr. Trahan was absent. Also in attendance were Dr. Cloche, Mr. Ford, Ms. Benoit, Mr. Dehart, Mr. Harding, Superintendent Ogeron, and members of his staff. Recommendation number 1, the committee recommends that the board approve and accept change order number 4 for the building repair project in response to Hurricane Ida at Berg Elementary School in a credit amount of $74,552 for unused allowances for gypsum and painting, acoustic ceiling tiles, acoustic ceiling insulation, and resilient floor tile, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So move Mr. Crowdis, second Mr. Dehart, I believe. Yep. Any public comments? Mr. Crowdis? Mr. Dehart? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 2, the committee recommends that the board approve and accept the substantial completion dated May 29, 2024 for the demolition of Upper Little Caillou Elementary School, subject to the punch list. Upon completion of the punch list and final inspection, balancing change order and receipt of the lien-free certificate, authorize the release of retainage, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto.
So moved.
So move Dr. Trahan. Second, Mr. Lagarde. Any public comments? Dr. Trahan?
No, sir.
Mr. Lagarde? Other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 3, the committee recommends that the board approve and accept the substantial completion dated May 16, 2024 for the demolition of Grand Caillou Elementary School, subject to the punch list. Upon completion of the punch list and final inspection, balancing change order and receipt of the lien-free certificate, authorize the release of retainage, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So move Mr. Dehart. Second, Mr. Lagarde. Any public comments? Mr. Dehart? Mr. Lagarde? Other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 4, the committee recommends that the board approve and accept change order number 3 for the window replacement project at Oak Lawn Middle School in the amount of $87,585. Paint walls, doors, door frames in classrooms and areas where cabinets and shelving are built into the wall. Funds to be derived from the building's fund, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So move Mr. Crowdis. Second, Mr. Lagarde. Any public comments? Mr. Crowdis? Mr. Lagarde? Other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 5, the committee recommends that the board approve and accept the following change orders for Hurricane Ida recovery projects and authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So move Mr. Crowdis.
Second.
Second, Dr. Trahan. Any public comments? Mr. Crowdis? Dr. Trahan?
No, sir.
Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 6, the committee recommends that the board approve and accept the substantial completion dated May 24, 2024 for the roof repair project at Evergreen Junior High School, subject to the punch list. Upon completion of the punch list and final inspection, balancing change order and receipt of the lien-free certificate, authorize the release of retainage, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So move Dr. Trahan.
Yes.
Second, Mr. Lagarde. Any public comments? Dr. Trahan?
No.
Mr. Lagarde? Other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 7, the committee recommends that the board approve and accept the substantial completion dated June 7, 2024 for the building repair project at Lisa Park Elementary and Oakshire Elementary Schools, subject to the punch list. Upon completion of the punch list and final inspection, balancing change order and receipt of the lien-free certificate, authorize the release of retainage, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto.
So moved.
So move Mr. Dehart. Second, Mr. Lagarde. Any public comments? Mr. Dehart?
No, sir, thank you.
Mr. Lagarde? Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 8, the committee recommends that the board approve and accept the following change orders for Hurricane Ida recovery projects and authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto. So move Dr. Trahan. Second, Mr. Crowdis. Any public comments? Dr. Trahan?
No, sir.
Mr. Crowdis? Other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 9, the committee recommends that the board reject all bids for the building repair project in response to Hurricane Ida at the Fletcher Building due to the bid specifications being incomplete and ambiguous, and further authorize Vergis Rome to re-advertise the bid. So move, Mr. Lagarde.
Second.
Second, Mr. Ford. Any public comments? Mr. Lagarde?
No, sir.
Mr. Ford?
I know Mr. Rome was here. I don't know if he wanted to speak to the board about this. I know we talked about it in committee.
Yes, sir.
But considering we are, rejecting the bid, I think it might be good to kind of give a little explanation for the public.
Good evening. A week and a half ago, we issued a letter to the school board recommending rejection of bids based upon the clarity of how the HVAC documents were set up to maximize the potential to be able to get new chillers on the project. So we're in the process, we'll have those documents for the HVAC completed by the end of next week. We're now reviewing the hazardous materials documents. We had included the reports in there which could have made it confusing in the bids. Sometimes we do that, sometimes we don't, but the Ritter, elected that would not have helped the bid. So we, rejected it on those premises. Those documents are complete. The other one was the specifications for the flooring. That has been corrected. So right now, we're waiting on the HVAC documents to be revised. We will review it with building management, with Becky, with Bubba, and Ally before we send it out to bid. But it's moving along quite quickly. We want to get it out as soon as possible. Okay? Any questions? Thank you.
Should you have a
Okay,
question?
yeah, Mr. DeHart?
Are you going to have the bid documents in time for us to have it at our next committee meeting, or it's not going
It'd
to
be
be that
before
quick?
that, absolutely.
That's
Yes,
great.
sir.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay.
Okay.
We're about 80% there.
Good.
I'm just waiting to review the HVAC. Like I mentioned, somebody had asked me the last meeting, when can you have it done? I said, when everybody gets back from vacation. So the main engineer got back on Monday, we were right on him. Okay?
I'm just trying to make sure it's not delayed too long.
No, it'll be
Because it
within a
needs to
week or
be done.
two. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you.
Any other board members? Thank you, sir, for your clarification. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So where was I?
That was 9.
So, yes, okay, any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, Stan. Recommendation number 10, the committee recommends that the board approve and accept change order number 1 for the HVAC replacement upgrade project at Elysian Fields Elementary School in the amount of $25,727 to replace perforated panels in cafeteria and ceiling work in kitchen. Funds to be derived from local funds and a credit amount of $17,600 to run HVAC condensate drains and PVC in lieu of copper to American Rescue Plan Act ARPA ESSER 3 funds.
So moved.
So move Mr. Lagarde, second Mr. DeHart. Any public comments? Mr. Lagarde?
No, sir.
Mr. DeHart?
No, sir.
Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Recommendation number 11, the committee recommends that the board approve and authorize Jeremy and Bruce Architects to advertise for bids for security fencing at Broadmoor Elementary, Caldwell Middle, Evergreen Junior High, H.L. Bourgeois High, and Lisa Park Elementary Schools, and establish a budget of $323,840, funds to be derived from previously budgeted funds in the building fund.
So moved.
So move Dr. Trahan. Second, Mr. Lagarde. Any public comments? Dr. Trahan?
No, sir.
Mr. Lagarde?
No, sir.
Other board members? Mr. Ford?
I kind of had this question, but I failed to ask it at committee. So a lot of these schools are already, the fencing has already been built in some of these schools, and then we're doing extensions and additions. Can we, as a board, give preferential treatment or selection to whatever contractor has already been doing the fencing? Because it's the same architect that's putting it out for bid. Or do we have to follow, and I think Ally just stepped out
She
because I
did.
was saying that.
Becky, you know that answer.
Do we have financing?
Becky's here, yes.
Yeah.
Stan,
I mean, if it's a new bid, it's going to go according to the public bid law.
So there's a chance that someone else may end up getting it. It's just, sometimes it's more efficient to use the same people that we already
They've done a
had.
good job.
I think it would have probably been better to bring it up as a
Everything
change
together,
order, but yeah.
Change order.
yeah. Okay, that's what I needed.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Any other board members? Any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. Ooh, that's the end? Wow, okay. There being no further business to come before the BFT committee, the meeting was adjourned at 6:57 PM. I turn it back over to you, Madam President.
Thank you, sir. Item 7D, Education, Technology, and Policy, Mr. DeHart.
Thank you. The Education, Technology, and Policy Committee met immediately following the 5:00 PM Finance, Insurance, Section 16 Lands Committee, Executive Committee, and the Building, Food Service, Transportation Committee meetings on Tuesday, June 11, 2024, in the boardroom of the School Board office with the 5 members present: Ms. Debbie Benoit, Chairwoman, Mr. Gregory Harding, Vice Chairman, and myself. Also in attendance were Mr. Dane Wazam, Dr. Bud Cloutier, Interim Board Member, Mr. Matthew Ford, Mr. Michael Lagarde, Superintendent Bub Orgeron, members of the staff. There was all informational information. There was no motions made. Anybody has any questions?
Motion to accept the report.
Motion by Dr. Maybelle Trahan, second by Dr. Bud. Any discussion, public? Mr.
I
Trahan,
did have a question.
go ahead.
Okay. I wasn't here for that meeting, but I'm reading Mr. Dillard's presentation on the college and career. Talking about the Fletcher Community College. And then I'm going back to what we just previously talked about with the Fletcher building. The fact that the bids and all for the Fletcher building that were rejected, we have to get that building up and functioning for this college and career program to kind of move forward.
Yes, sir.
Is that
Yeah.
my
Yes, sir.
correct understanding? Okay.
And,
You know, I was just trying to figure out a way, and I know you're going through the bids and everything, but I just think I really think that's an important aspect of the educational process for the community. I know the public is really looking forward to to that school, that track for the high school kids to be ready to go. And I don't know if there's any way to push that along any
Yes, sir.
faster, but I know the public is ready for
good,
that.
good point, yes, sir. Can I comment to that? So, the majority of the work we're doing now is planning and establishing relationships and connections with vendors that are gonna help outfit some of our departments. So probably this delay is not gonna affect anything with the timing of getting into that facility, just because of the amount of work we have to plan to get it
Yeah,
ready to receive kids.
okay. I just wanted to put that
Yes, sir.
out there. Thank you.
Anybody else?
It's a very legitimate concern, though, because we're all in that same mindset as well.
No other questions? There's no further business for the Education Committee. I turn the meeting back over to you, Ms. Trahan.
Thank you, Mr. DeHart. Superintendent's agenda.
Okay. Okay, A1 is matter bearing upon results of the fiscal agent banking services requests for proposals. The recommendation is that the board accept and approve the proposal for fiscal agent banking services from Regions Bank for a 4-year contract beginning July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2028, with 2 4-year options to renew, and further authorize the board president to sign all necessary documents pertaining thereto.
So who was that, Mr.
Matthew?
Mr. Ford, second by Mr. DeHart.
Dr. Cloutier.
Oh, Dr. Cloutier, excuse me, Dr. Cloutier. Any public comment? Mr. Ford?
I just want to say that I'm pleased with this decision to stick with Regions, because they have made it convenient for us to bank utilizing South Louisiana Bank also, so they've partnered up to accommodate us, so that's something that I'm pleased to hear. And they have offered us the best product for the money, so thank you.
Dr. Cloutier? Any other board members? Mr. LaGuardia?
Yeah,
have a
do the
question.
banks compete? How do we
Okay.
decide
Y- yes, sir.
compete or whatever?
I'll have, Ms. LaGuardia, I'll have Ms. Bro come explain the process of proposals.
Okay, so, Mr. LaGuardia, your question was whether the banks compete?
Yeah, how
Just
we,
got one
what they do to get our business on.
So we put out what's called a request for proposals, where we describe all of the services that we will need and ask them for their feedback about things like whether they can, provide all of the services. How much are they going to charge us for those services? How much interest will they pay us for us making our deposits into their bank and things like that? And there's more to it than that. They have to meet certain requirements to be able to handle the amount of money that the school board deposits. And so there's a lot more to it than just that, but I'm kind of simplifying. But we put out this request for proposals, and we invite proposals from all of the banks who have representation in Terrebonne Parish. From that, we received 3 proposals this time, which was JP Morgan Chase, Regions, and B1 Bank.
And we pick the best one that fit us?
Yes, so we have a rubric that we include in the proposal so they can see what we're judging them on. And we're judging them on things like the number of branches that they have in Terrebonne Parish. That's a big one for us because our schools have to go to the bank every day. So the number of branches it's important to us. How much interest, what's the interest rate that they're going to pay on our deposits? How much are they going to charge us? And several other things. But those are kind of the big 3 that it comes down to.
Okay, now, do you know how much, I guess a figure, how much we spend with the banks?
So I did, last year with Regions Bank, we spent about $49,000 in service charges. But we received about $2.2 million in interest. And then this year, because we all know just from our personal, checking and savings accounts, interest rates are higher right now. So this year, and this is just through May because we don't have June yet, we've spent $59,000 in service charges, but we've received almost $3.7 million in interest. So considerably more because the interest rates have climbed.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Brewer, I went over it with you before the meeting, and I appreciate the information. I still think this is a good move on the recommendation. The only concern I have, and I know legal's right there, can say yes or no, is that right now with the 2 4-year options to renew, the word 2 to 4 year options, that means if certain things change, interest rates or services or whatever, we got a chance to opt out.
Yes, sir. So we'll have one initial 4-year agreement.
right.
And at the end of those 4 years, we can
You evaluate.
evaluate
Yes.
and decide, do we want to continue with Regions?
Yes.
Or do we want to see what else is out there?
Well, that's what I understood, but I just want to make it
Yes,
clear.
sir. And
Because interest rates go up and down.
They do, and the
Yeah.
good thing about the proposal that we've accepted is that as interest rates go up and down, when the Fed changes the interest rate, the
Yes,
interest
ma'am.
rate that we receive will go up and down with it.
Well, I appreciate your explanation earlier, and it made me understand it clearer, but that 2 to 4 year optional thing, I
Yes,
just
sir.
wanted to make sure I was covering.
I do want to mention too, because, and I think you mentioned it, that Regions has partnered with South Louisiana Bank. So that's important to us too. We all like to shop local, and that gives us the opportunity to do that. It also gives more branches because South Louisiana Bank has a lot of branches in Terrebonne Parish, and they're one of the ones who keeps adding branches instead of closing. And that's helping a lot with our schools being able to have kind of a neighborhood branch or a nearby branch for them to go to.
Thank
Any
you.
other board members?
Yeah,
Mr.
right
LaGuardia?
quick. I know you may not know this, but do our employees use them? you know, like for their personal stuff, since the school building, are they friendly, you know, with them, giving good service?
Absolutely, and I mean, they're both here, we have representatives here from both banks, I think they can come up and let you know, but one thing that Regions has offered to do is offered to do personal finance classes for our employees or the students, help with personal budgeting, and we've actually talked about how we could work that in maybe with some, I don't know, PD or teacher workshops or something where we can have them come in and help our employees with budgeting and personal finance. We're trying to figure out how that would look. And I think that they offer, I mean, I know that they offer, you know, checking and savings accounts to our employees. And we love this relationship with them, and we appreciate them. And we have, I have 4 people that I can call at Regions, 2 in Homa and 2 in New Orleans, and I have 1 person with South Louisiana Bank. I have all their cell phone numbers. If we had a little snafu one night with payroll, and it was 8 o'clock at night, and I called one of them, and they fixed it at night for us. So we're very happy with our relationship with them.
Maybe y'all can come up, fellas, and just introduce yourselves. And
my name is Steve Barbera. I'm the local Regions representative and commercial lender for Regions Bank in our Bayou market. And we are very happy with the relationship we have, and the assistance that we get from Becky and all of her staff is tremendous because it helps us in being able to provide that. You mentioned about financial education. Regions has a complete program called Next Step, which provides financial education not only to kids from kindergarten grade all the way up to adults, helping in financial education for whether or not they're going to college, whether or not they're finding need assistance in just balancing their checkbook. We provided that, and we've had conversations in regards to trying to provide a program for the school to put it into the curriculum for the requirement that the state passed for financial education within the school. And we're happy to do that as well. So I'll turn over to my friend from South Louisiana Bank.
Good evening, Randy Bernard with South Louisiana Bank, and we are pleased and honored to represent, to serve a district, and our role was more so to service the individual schools, to give them a local branch to operate from, and whatever we can do to help, we're ready to help, so appreciate it.
Any more questions for this gentleman? Thank
Do
you.
you have any cards? Mr. Wise asked, you want to special interest rate? Thank y'all just.
Special interest deposit.
There's a card, not a coupon.
Very well said.
I'm glad you mentioned it.
Thank you. Any objections? None heard, so ordered. Item number 2,
Okay, personnel sections provided for you are the personnel actions for period May 17th, 2024 through June 21st, 2024. That's for your information only, board members.
And item number 9
I'd like to make
was,
a comment.
excuse me?
I'd like to make a comment.
Yes, sir.
Without saying too many things, it's a personnel matter, but I was shocked to see that many certified employees leave the system. And they have their own reasons. It's been like that for years. It just was a shock to me after what the board has been doing and the superintendent's been doing. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Mr. Clocher.
And I have a comment concerning that as well, which we talked about before, but I think that's where we, as school board members, have a responsibility to talk to our own legislators about bringing legislation forth to change the fact that certified teachers, once they retire, can no longer come back into the public school system without losing their retirement or having to freeze it. I've already been in contact with some legislators on this deal for next session to possibly bring up new legislation to where these folks who have retired, we can bring back into our system Because as HR mentioned the other day, if that would be available, we would not have a problem staffing our schools with certified teachers. So, you know, we need to do our part as well on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cloutier. Mr. Ford?
Well, he basically took the words right out of my mouth. I think it's time that we start looking at that and really reaching out to get something done, because we have a lot of retired teachers out there, and every time I see retired teachers, first thing I ask them is, are you ready to come back? And they would love to come back if they were going to get paid. So,
Yes.
thank you.
Any other comments? Mr. DeHart?
I've been working on that for the last 10 months in Baton Rouge, and I'm making some progress with those things.
I think we are too.
Yes, sir. Good. Just sharing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeHart. Mr. Crowders?
Yeah, kind of feeding along what Dr. Bud said and Mr. Ford, it says, it just still baffles me why a governmental service would want to keep good people from participating and still giving when they still feel like they have the ability to give and to contribute to society. I've never been able to understand that mindset on why you punish someone who still wants to contribute. And I don't know, but I'm glad you said that. I will be contacting my particular representative for legislation like that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Moving on to item number 9.
If it's okay, I'd like to say a few things
Mr.
on
Oshman.
the legislation, on number 9.
On the legislation.
Since she's not here.
Our legislative liaison, Ms. Benoit, is not here tonight. Mr. Ogeron will have a few words.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Trahan. So, as we've heard Ms. Benoit throughout the year talking about a lot of legislation this year pertaining to public education, I'd like to just there are so many, but I'd like to just highlight a few this evening, because one in particular, I'll get to that one in a moment, I'm going to be requesting a special board meeting attached to the committee meeting, because we have to pass get your approval on a plan to meet requirements of one of these laws. So I'll get into that one in just a minute, but just, if I can, talk about a few of them. So there were many on student discipline, and one of them in particular, I'll just read some of the highlights. It says this, it's Act 400. It says, requires rather than authorizes removal of a student whose behavior prevents the orderly instruction of other students. So that's something new. And what schools were dealing with in the past was when too many kids were sent out or suspended, we got labels because of the federal requirements. And the label came with things you had to do in addition to what you already have to do. So that was problematic. It was called urgent intervention required with a D at the end for discipline. So the State Department is asking for a reprieve of that, so that that's not a factor anymore, so that this is going to be a whole lot easier for schools to kind of follow. So we like this one, and we feel like we're going to be totally fine with this, because we don't feel it's being discouraged at all as it is, okay? The next one is, this one we've talked about before, is the cell phones. There's a Act 313 that says, as the cell phone rings, that happened in our staff meeting the other day, same thing. We were talking about this one. And it says that during the instructional day, that cell phones cannot be out. They can be on your person, but not out and used at any time. See, now we currently, at recess, they can get their, we call it their fix or their whatever. They can listen to their music or what. This is saying, according to our interpretation, it's to be interpreted. There's some parts of the language here, not at all. So we're looking at, a lot of schools and districts are looking at all these different mechanisms to kind of control the cell phones. There's these little pouches that are magnetic that schools are buying, and you put your phone in the pouch and it locks it until the end of the day, where the administrator comes and unlocks it with this certain magnetism device. That's working in some places. Will we go to that? We talked this week about possibly having that as a consequence for violators of this. So we're looking at how we're going to address this thing. There's so many. That's just one in addition to some of the others. Just wanted to bring that one up, because that's something you'll be hearing more of. You've heard this one, requires the display of the Ten Commandments. That's coming. That's another one. It's being fought by the ACLU, is what I'm hearing. But nonetheless, House Bill 71 is now an act. I don't have the act number. Here's another one, Act 428. This is not all that pressing, but it changes our grading scale to a 10-point grading scale. So that's new across the board.
Honors, right?
How's it?
Top 10 points was honors.
Yes, yes. So now we'll have to figure out how we address honors classes. A couple of others. Here's one that is going to just be more, I guess, work. But there's one that says it's Act 771. You'll be hearing more about this one. Provides relative to required high-dosage tutoring during the day. So kids who fall below level in reading or math, they're going to be required to receive an additional amount of time during the school day. Where we can find the minutes is going to be the challenge, right? 3 times a week, 30-minute sessions of high-dose tutoring in that subject if they fall short. That's an Act 771. We're already kind of intervening, have intervention periods, so we feel like we be able to handle this one okay. Here's another one, Act 311. This is one that we've been doing a lot of work on through Becky and Deborah and myself and the whole staff, actually. It says this, it says provides, so we have a salary schedule. We've been talking a lot about salaries, and we did a 10% raise and all that. That is directly linked to their job description, that salary. So anything outside of that, this law or this Act 311 says teachers will receive $30 an hour for anything outside of the job description. So that's fine, and then it's going to be the management of that. So we're in the process of getting through our rules and procedures, and that's one thing that I have to bring to the board for approval. So
Give me an example. What we have-
if a teacher stays for graduation and pins flowers on a kid or on us,
okay.
$30 an hour.
Clubs and all that as well?
So clubs and sports will be exempt because we have a specific contract for that. Like, that's outside of these duties. But if you have a teacher stay for anything to help out with after school anything, and it's $30 an hour after all the taxes and everything are taken out. So we've got to actually pay more than $30 so that the net is $30 an hour. So we just have a lot of work to kind of get done, looking at job descriptions, make sure our job descriptions are accurate. But this whole plan is going to be presented to you at committee for this special board meeting with your approval, Dr. Tron, and board to have this meeting. Yes, sir.
Just a question about that last one, which you may or may not know the answer yet, but when we're talking about additional activities, is that on the school grounds, away from the school grounds, both?
Both. Yes, sir. Both.
So even attending a graduation, they would be paid to attend a graduation because they're sitting in the special teacher audience.
Unless they'd have to have a performing some kind of job or a duty assigned to them other than just attendance. That's a good question, because we thought that. We really,
Yeah.
so what we need to do is really make a list of all the things that teachers potentially will do. And then the other part of this, for this to work, we've got to get teachers to get this approved. Like, they won't be able to stay and do whatever without getting administrative approval. So we're working on a form to get probably like a 72-hour approval before the money would be paid to them. So that's all going to be part of our plan. Just wanted to bring that one up. That's a big one.
Interesting,
It's a
yes.
big one. It's time consuming, which we'll have to kind of take care of. Any other questions on that? We'll talk more about this in a couple of weeks,
It has to be net $30.
basically.
So different individuals on different tax tables. So everybody's
So you
taxes
got
are
to
not
pick a
on the
number
same,
high
not the
enough that
same.
you're going to cover it. That's
So
right.
it's going to be
And most districts are
It's-
looking at
that's an
35 or
individualized
$40 an
thing.
hour, you know, so that it kind of comes out.
This one has
okay.
2 dependents, that one has
That's
3
right.
dependents, to
Yep.
pay more taxes, that's gonna be,
Yep.
wow.
So this is another one, Senate Bill 313. We as a board, you as a board, we had a proclamation for the House bill of the educational savings account. Senate Bill 313 is the Senate side of educational savings account. So that is moving forward. So they had one on each side, and one killed the other, but this one prevailed through the House on the other side, this Senate bill. Governor signed it, so that one's coming. We talked a lot about that. Couple of more. There's so many, so many. And I thought this one was just interesting because I think where we're at, Mr. DeHart mentioned resignations, but our certified count is going to be much higher. We're going to have a whole lot more certified teachers this coming year and in future years. But this one says that it authorizes principals to notify parents of any child assigned to the classroom of an uncertified teacher, or a teacher with a non-standard certificate, or a teacher authorized to teach without a certification. We've done that before, but this is like a law, and I'm bringing this one up because I think we'll be in good shape, hopefully not sending many letters home. I mean, that's the goal. Just wanted to bring that one up. Those are just some of the highlights of a plethora of laws that are going to be enacted for us to kind of adhere to. So here's another one. How about this? There's such a strong push for literacy and numeracy. And part of each superintendent's evaluation will be based on the success of kids in literacy and numeracy, 15%. Like, we were kind of looking at that one throughout the movement of that, and it's Act 193. So that's the seriousness of that. So that's my little report. One more, let's see. This one here, Act 422. So here's the, Act 422 was actually a 2023 act from last session. What that one is, it's called high dosage tutoring. I kind of mentioned some of that. I'm sorry, I'm wrong. I'm wrong.
That was at 771.
Right. So the 422 is kids who are not on grade level reading at 3rd grade. It's they'll be retained. So we're going to give these screeners. We give these screeners beginning, mid, and end of year. If they're not on level by the end screening, retention, unless you can verify that they're dyslexic, and a couple of other caveats, but for the most part, we've got our hands full, like we're doing TLC, the TLC program we talked about in 1st and 2nd. We're going to have to figure out something for 3rd graders too, because they're not necessarily learning to read in 3rd grade, they're reading to learn. So we've got to kind of reestablish how we teach reading to 3rd graders so that we don't have this backlog of kids getting retained, and there's no way around it. No way around it. Yes, sir.
2 questions. For Act 428, that's the 10-point grading scale.
Yeah.
Is there anything in there about the requirement, and I'll name a school district that does this by practice, St. Charles Parish, does not allow students to get anything lower than 60% for the first 3 grading periods. In other words, they could go in and not do a single thing the first grading period, and their grade is going to be 60%. The 2nd grading period, grade's going to be 60%. 3rd grading period, grade's going to be 60%. It's only the 4th grading period that they actually have to apply themselves and get something. And
Really?
It's been like that. And I've mentioned it before. You can call St. Charles, and I'll call them out on it. That's why I think they're cheating. Not to mention the fact that they're teaching the test out there. And I mean, I have the records to prove it. But anyway, that's not in that act, is it? That's not, because I know there was some push for that as well.
No.
And their justification for that is, if someone has a 60% going into the 4th grading period, they can still potentially pass the class.
Gotcha.
Anything lower than 60%, that fourth grading period,
They're done.
it's impossible, so they would be done.
Mhm.
And I think they've cultivated a culture of just, lazy people there, and unfortunately,
They rely on the fourth non
yeah, it's not the only school district that does that, but I know, I have firsthand experience with that. The next one is Act 436. You didn't mention that. Are you familiar with that one?
What is it? I don't know the
It's
numbers offhand.
the restroom with your birth gender, your.
Yes, there's several with that and the pronouns and stuff. Yeah, I didn't get to those, but yes, I
So
am.
that one requires students to utilize the restroom of the gender that they were at birth. So it kind of negates and goes against the previous one that was trying to get pushed through. And that one actually went through, and it's an Act 436.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you guys want to read up on that, but that's something we may have to deal with also from a disciplinarian or just from a logistics standpoint.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thanks.
I'm just wondering, does staff and superintendent and everyone else over here get the $30 an hour to implement all these laws?
Yeah, this the extra.
No,
If
ma'am.
it's above
No,
and
ma'am.
beyond your contract?
That's part of it, I think.
Just a thought. She said no.
What about support workers? Support workers would get that too, or is it just strictly
Certified teachers.
teachers?
Certified
Oh,
teacher.
only certified teachers. Now, I know at them schools you have people doing all kind of stuff. So the people who doing that, they're not certified, they won't get the $30 at graduation.
That's not good. Support workers.
Or the programs, because we have the people you
I-
working hard.
If I'm correct in my reading and interpretation, then no, it's certified teachers.
Wow.
Good point, Deb.
I do have a question about that.
You know,
Is it possible to pay them via a stipend where we don't take out taxes and their, or is there?
think so.
So it has to be, there's no non-taxable income for that. It's gotta be taxed. Okay.
All I can say is wow. It's a handful. All right, anything else? Being there, no more,
No, he's good, he's ready to roll.
being no more business to come before the Terrebonne Parish School Board at this meeting is adjourned.
I wanna look at this.
Sign at the blue tab.